So that's what it means to really harness a creative lifestyle. And I'm so glad that so many people in this room resonated with that. One of the earliest studies on creativity was E. Paul Torrance as well, who looked at the various characteristics of creativity from people growing up from elementary school into adulthood. And he found that those who were creative in adulthood were those who had beyonder character, what he called the beyonder characteristics, like a love of work, persistence, felt some sort of sense of purpose in life, deep thinking, not the same thing as quick thinking, but deep thinking, tolerance of mistakes, openness to change. They're risk takers. He also asked these elementary school kids, if you're in a room and no one else agrees with you about something, and you're literally a minority of one, like, are you okay with that? He found that the kids who said, yeah, I'm okay with being a minority of one, grew up being the most creative people, So I thought that was really cool. He found also that imagination was really important, but not just imagination by itself. It was falling in love with a future image of yourself. I really love this quote. Life's most energizing and exciting moments occur in those split seconds when our struggling and searching are suddenly transformed into the dazzling aura of the profoundly new, an image of the future. One of the most powerful wellsprings of creative energy, outstanding accomplishment, and self fulfillment seems to be falling in love with something, your dream, your image of the future. We've done neuroscience research, and you can read our papers on my website. We identified a brain network that I call the imagination brain network, which is correlated. It's active. It's the medial. It's actually the inside part of our brain, the medial surface. So not the outer layer, but it's actually the medial part of our prefrontal cortex. And it's associated with things like daydreaming. Where are my daydreamers at? Imagining and planning the future, retrieving deeply personal memories, personal making out of your experiences in life, being able to monitor your own emotional state, reading fiction, being able to reflectively take the perspective of another person, and then perspective taking. And this brain network is really underdeveloped in children and in school systems. We're exercising a different brain network, the executive attention network. Pay attention to the teacher, but I think we need to cultivate more in everyone this imagination brain network. Also, part of growth is love, having universal love, not the same thing as connection, but treating people and all humans with dignity, respect, and as ends in themselves, not as means to an end to satisfy your own deficiencies. Having a sense of purpose, so having healthy goals and motivations, and really with purpose, it's important to have a purpose that's right for you. Abraham Maslow said, what is not worth doing is not worth doing well." It's not just good to just have a purpose, but if it doesn't suit you, but have a purpose that really will lead to optimal growth and development and well-being for you, and that fit your deepest self and deepest values. And usually, the best purpose for you is one that is a good match between your own unique skills and abilities and personality and what you can contribute to the world. So, healthy transcendence is the view of the seabird from above the sailboat, in my metaphor. Do you like that? Do you like that? So, healthy transcendence is the seabird. Um, with this kind of perspective on not just yourself, but on humanity, you can start getting really, really close to the world. So the self and world, you can actually view it as a continuum of transcendence. We have these moments where we feel really detached from the world in our most narcissistic moments, but then we have moments where we start to get outside ourselves, like a flow experience, where we feel connected to reading a book or to talking to a person, our moments of mindfulness, or gratitude or the love experience, but the awe experience and being awe and feeling inspiration and even the great mystical experience is available, I think, to all of us. I have a all experience questionnaire that I developed with my colleagues, and you can take all these tests I was telling you about on my website. Go to self-actualizationtests.com. The link there is at the bottom. But I just imagine if you cultivated more in your life, things that allowed you to momentarily slow down and feel more connected to everyone, feel closely connected to humanity, perceive things that are much larger than you, or cultivate more of the chills for what you're experiencing, trying to understand, encounter things that in your life that are so great beyond yourself that you just need to take a moment and try to understand the magnitude of what you're experiencing. These are some of the most wonderful moments of our lives. Abraham Maslow called them peak experiences. And then he even, towards the very end of his life, talked about the plateau experience. What does it mean to just be able to not just have grandiose moments, but be able to bring this into your daily life, see the sacred in the ordinary, to see the miraculous in the everyday. That's what life is really all about. Not some always reaching the top of a mountain, because you reach the top of the mountain and then you'll be like, okay, well, what's next? Like, okay, I thought my whole life I'd be happy when I reached the top of the mountain. Then you and just spoiler alert, no one ever does. Spoiler alert, no one ever reaches that top of the mountain and then is like, okay, I'm done. The rest of my life, I'm happy, I'm fulfilled. You'll find something to be unfulfilled again, trust me. So, so I'm trying to teach you something a little bit more sustainable, something a little bit more, something that you can have more fulfillment in your life every day of your life, without waiting for that moment of the top of the mountain. So I believe I only have 10 minutes left for my talk. So in 10 minutes, I'm just going to go down the list of how to become a whole person, because this is the How To Academy. And I thought it would be very appropriate to just give you the 7 principles on how to be a whole person. Because why not? Principle 1, try to strive to balance those basic needs I'm telling you about. Really think in your life, how can you balance these sort of, oh, good, I just got a message saying I can speak for 15 minutes, so maybe I can take a deep breath and not talk so fast. But so thank you. But try to see how you can look at all these various needs that I outlined to you today, and see how you can balance them in your life. Maybe you're not paying attention to your self-esteem needs, and you think that it's not valuable. Maybe you're just always a giver. You're always giving to others, and there's no sort of self-care routine at all, or there's nothing that you're doing that gives you pride. Well, you're worth it. Focus on that. Be able to take the time to satisfy some of those needs. Um, Principle 2, accept your whole self, not just your best self. So it turns out, and this might be another thing that blows your mind, uh, but there's no such thing as a true self. There's nothing like in you, like that we can go and look at your brain and be like, oh, you know what? That's your true self. That's your false self. Like there's no such thing. That doesn't even make sense. By the way, are you able to see me at all? Like, can you see my video at all? I'm just curious. Okay, good, because I just did a funny sort of thing with the brain in my hand, my finger. So I was just curious if you saw that. Okay, so yeah, I was just curious because someone earlier said they couldn't see the video. Okay, so the thing is, we all contain multitudes. Creative people know that more than anyone else. And we also show an authenticity bias. So we tend to just include the things we like about ourselves as the real us, and all the things we don't like about ourselves, we disavow that. We say, oh, that wasn't the real me. How many celebrities, do you see like doing stupid things, and they'll be like, I'm sorry, that wasn't the real me. It's like, come on, really? Like, it was part of you, own it. I think that it's important in life to take responsibility for your whole self, not just your best self. As humanistic psychologist Carl Rogers, who has a big influence on my own career, has said, the curious paradox is that when I accept myself just as I am, then I can change. Acceptance doesn't mean you like the things about yourself. It's not like you say, oh, I like that crazy thing I did last night that I regret doing. It means that you accept you did it. You don't outsource that to the world at large. You say, oh, that's everyone else's fault. No, you take responsibility for that, and as a route to personal growth. I think that the question, who am I, is the wrong question. Carl Rogers said a lot of people entered his psychotherapy practice and said, well, doc, I want to know, who am I? Who am I? I think that's, you can waste your whole life trying to answer that question. I think a better question is, which potentialities within me do I most wish to spend my limited time on Earth cultivating, developing, and actualizing in the world? I think that's a better question. Principle three, become aware of your inner conflicts. If it feels like sometimes you have multiple personalities within you, it's because you have multiple personalities within you. That's how human evolution, that's what we've been endowed with. You know, whether it was the creator above, whatever you believe in, evolution, we have it. We have multiple personalities within us, and it's because we evolved very different uh, things for very different purposes, and we all when we have all of these kinds of parts of ourselves in one body. If you just look at the romantic love as an example, you know, somehow the people who make it work, it's miraculous when you think about it, really, that humans could make a marriage work, you know, because we have things like the attachment drive that evolved for its own purpose, caregiving drive, lust drive, and the romantic passion drive. As Helen Fisher, the psychologist who studies love, says, one can feel deep attachment for one individual while feeling romantic passion for someone else, while feeling the sex drive for everyone you see. You know, it's like, oh my gosh, like humans are so messy. You know, we have the capacity to for all these kinds of different drives and to can be kind of like separated from each other. So how can we? The real question is, how can we integrate that harmoniously so that all these kinds of drives aren't causing us inner conflicts? Because when they're not integrated, when people aren't aware of those inner conflicts, they can really cause a lot of destruction in the world. As Helen Fisher says, the relative neurological independence of these mating drives helps to explain contemporary cross-cultural patterns of philandering, sexual jealousy, stalking, spousal abuse, love homicide, love suicide, and the clinical depression associated with unstable and disbanded partnerships. So much of our suffering operates you know, with ourselves because we aren't honest about our inner conflicts and we can't get a grip on them. So that's a really important part of becoming a whole person is being able to integrate all these various sides of ourselves. It's also really important to look out for lopsided development. Karen Horn and I talked a lot about the tyrannical shoulds that we have in our lives. Do you have tyrannical shoulds in your life that you feel like, well, feel like I should be helping and doing this, and but you know deep down you really don't want to in that moment? You know, sometimes these tyrannical shoulds can really hijack the whole system and cause us to have a lopsided development. Karen Horney talked a lot about these neurotic trends in life that may provide a sense of safety and security, but ultimately stunts our growth. And there's lots of, you know, genetic factors, but also environmental factors. You know, there are parents, you know, can kind of cause us to develop in one of these lopsided ways. It could happen. You can have very well-meaning parents who exert too much pressure on the child to succeed, parents who force their child to take one side or the other, parents who feel make their child feel like their purpose on the planet is to live up to the parents' expectations, parents who are unpredictable and constantly shift back and forth between smothering love and intimidation, tyranny and glorification, comradeship and authoritarianism. This can be very confusing for a child and cause them to develop lots of these neurotic trends. I'm just going to go through the three major neurotic trends, and I want you to just awareness is the key to becoming a whole person. Just be honest with yourself. Maybe one of your neurotic trends is moving toward people. Maybe you feel like you have a need to be liked by everyone. Maybe your neurotic trend is moving against people. Maybe you have this idea that it's a hostile world, life's a struggle, so I need to be in command because only the strongest survive. Or maybe your neurotic trend is you move away from people, so you always feel detached, like you know, like I don't really need people at all. I avoid long-term obligations. I resent people trying to influence me. I like it better when people do not share their thoughts and feelings with me. Each one of these neurotic trends are exaggerated versions of a basic need that when they come so out of whack, they can take over the whole system, and that's not healthy for becoming a whole person. I do think at the end of the day that we can create the best version of ourselves. You know, we aren't born blank slates. It is true that each of you does have sort of, sort of genetic propensities, but the fact remains, and this may sound corny, but everyone is born with the potential to become the best them in the entire world. No one else. Here's another way of putting that: no one else in the entire world has as much potential to become you than you. That's a fact. So reframe your whole existence here as trying hard to be like someone else. Like, it doesn't make any sense to like say like, oh, I'm a failure because I didn't become Michael Jordan. Well, that's ridiculous. That's like saying I'm a failure because I didn't self-actualize someone else's self. Okay? So really think about this differently. Um, Personality change is possible. I really think that it's a matter of sticking to your own sort of actualization process and staying on your own path. Um, Carl Rogers talks a lot about the fully functioning person and how optimal psychological adjustment requires being open to your experiences, dropping your defenses, living and savoring and living a life with mindfulness and flow as much as possible, trusting in your own experiences. Organismic meaning your own existential, the organism, the whole organism, not just certain parts of you. What do you really truly feel about a situation, and trusting in that? He really thought that becoming a fully functioning person could result in a sense of freedom and a sense of enhanced creativity. This is my favorite quote, one of my favorite quotes from anyone, but my favorite Carl Rogers quote. It seems to me that an individual moves towards being, knowingly and acceptingly, the process which they inwardly and actually are. They're not trying to be more than they are with the attendant feelings of insecurity or bombastic defensiveness. They're not trying to be less than they are with the attendant feelings of guilt or self-deprecation. They are increasingly listening to the deepest recesses of their physiological and emotional being and find themselves increasingly willing to be, with greater accuracy and depth, that self which they most truly are. I think that if we move towards growth continually, I think it's a much better way to live a full life than to search for happiness. If you try to search for happiness as the goal, you'll be much less likely to be happy. Becoming human, fully human, is about living a full existence, not necessarily a happy one. Living well is not always about feeling good, but involves continually incorporating more meaning, engagement, and growth in your life. And this process often involves experiencing uncomfortable emotions fully and accepting and integrating them with the rest of human experience. Which brings us to the final principle, because so many people are scared of the dark side. So many people cut off sides of themselves from awareness because they're scared of it. And that's the opposite from how to live a full life, how to be fully human. The humanistic psychologist Roll May highlighted the power of the daimonic, what he called the daimonic, which is something that it's not the demon. The daimonic can be good or bad, but it exists in all of us. It's that thing that can overtake the whole system. Roll May believe that humans are neither fundamentally good nor fundamentally evil, but are bundles of both evil and good potentialities. Roll may define the demonic as whatever potentiality within you has the power to take over the whole person. And it's so important to integrate that demonic, because that can result in the highest forms of creativity. If the demonic is not integrated, it's true, it can take over the whole personality, and often destructive activity is the result. But Roll may believe the healthy integration of hostility, aggression, and anger is essential for growth, not by avoiding the potential for evil, but by directly confronting it. George Valiant, a legendary psychologist, believes we can transform our defenses from thunderstorms to rainbows. This is a quote from him. He says, "The maladaptive defenses of adolescence can evolve into the virtues of maturity. If we use defenses well, we are deemed mentally healthy, conscientious, funny, creative, and altruistic. If we use them badly, the psychiatrist diagnoses us ill, our neighbors label us unpleasant, and society brands us immoral." So I just want to wish you all good luck with the integration process, and basically good luck in the process of becoming. It's a lifelong journey. We never get there, but it's just a matter of continually choosing growth. So thank you so much for listening to my presentation today, and I'm really looking forward to answering questions.
Hello again, Scott. Thank you so much for that talk. It was fascinating, and it's been really great seeing everyone's responses in the chat. Lots of positive feedback and lots of questions coming in. So I'll get started. Are you ready?
That's great. I'm definitely ready.
Good. First question, it's quite a big one, but it's a good place to start, which is, do you think as a society we need to redefine what we mean by success?